Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday morning now. It's January 3rd. It's actually like 10 o'clock in the morning, so it's actually way later than I normally do these. So I actually have some sunlight out there, and I've got people moving around the fishbowl here. Just real life got a hold of me this morning, and I've got Wednesday mornings at 7:30 is when I pull my entire leadership team together, and we spend an hour or so just make sure everybody's synced up on all the contract items and hiring issues and HR items and all that. So I just need to get ready for that. I had a couple of people coming early today, so that's just, that's part of that. You run your day, or does your day run you? And even when you're structured and planned, life does take over from time to time. So, but I can still recuperate from the morning and do what I need to get done today. And one of those things is to talk with you all for a few minutes. So one thing that got some good news this morning, I think if any of you watched the Street Speed 717, you saw Mike announce there's another call out coming, and I believe you'll see DHR Street Speed will be part of that call out, so we'll be there. Whether we bring the Viper or the Demon, or we have to see what kind of call-out event they're doing. If it's a drag race again, you'll probably see the Demon come out. We should have it a month or two before then, so I should be familiar with the car and how to set it up, trans brake, line lock, and all that, and have done it a few times. So I'm kind of excited about that. It takes this channel to another level of participation, another level of integration with some of the bigger channels, and another level of visibility. So all those are exciting and kind of part of my hopes for this channel. So that was kind of nice. So two things. I owe you all some questions and Q&As because I took up the whole video yesterday. And so I want to do two questions from you all. And so the first one is kind of about the garage, and a recurring theme or a recurring set of questions that I get include, why did I do the garage the way I did it? And those questions come down to things like, why did I lease and why did I go off my own property to do this? And so I just want to talk to you about that for a minute. And then the other question was, does the garage have room for the cars that are coming in? Because we have the Viper's going to come back in about 10 to 14 days. It should be back. And then we have the Demon coming in, and we have the ZR1 coming in. And the answer is they will all fit in that garage. And even if I need a little more space, the Jeep itself can sit outside. It's really not an elite or rare vehicle, so it can live outside if necessary. So the question as to why did I do it the way I did it? So I want to talk about that for a minute. I have a pretty nice house. It's not a great house. It's not what you might expect, having watched this channel for a few days or a few weeks or for the month we've been up. It's a house that we built in 1996, and we've never moved up. We've never upgraded it. We've never done the bigger house thing. So it's a fairly moderate house. It's fairly mid-tier. But it is on 6 acres, so we have plenty of ground to do the garage project. And maybe someday in the future we'll do that. But I wanted to separate all this car and garage activity, even all the refitting and construction activity. I wanted to separate it from my home, and I wanted to separate it from my wife and kids. It's loud. It can be offensive to my neighbors. It can be messy, when you rip a car apart to do maintenance on it, when you do harnesses, you pull out the seats, just all that stuff's got to go somewhere. And I just didn't want it to be a pain for my kids or my wife to go in and out of the garage every time they wanted to do that. My wife's car is that Q7. You've seen it in the background a few times. It needs a place to be parked, particularly during the wintertime when it snows. So all that just kind of said, let's just move it away. And the other thing is Anne Marie has a little bit of a shake my head factor. We talked about that a couple of videos ago. She did those nice logos for me. And if you look at the laptop version or the computer version of the channel, you'll see the logo she did now is up. But for now, that extends to her level of desire to be involved. She doesn't want to be on the channel. I don't think she wants all the crap laying around the yard, the house, the driveway, the garage. And So I just decided to do it somewhere else. And then I did it as a lease versus a construction or a buy, because this is still a grand experiment. I mean, it's going better than I ever thought possible, and the level of integration and involvement you all have brought to the channel has been, shocking and a bit humbling. But it's still an experiment, and so to lease gives me kind of these, every year I get to decide, is it an experiment I want to continue with, and to spend that money on. And it's much easier to spend $1,000 a month on the lease than it is to go spend $100,000 on, building a garage like that. And then outfitting it's probably another $100,000, based on my experience in the garage project. So I just I'm trying to take things slow. I tend to take things in staircases, in bite-sized chunks. So we'll see where we go with it. But I wanted to keep it away from the family and not have this thing be something they hated every time I mentioned it. And I wanted to do it in a financially mature manner, and do it in a responsible way. As stupid as that probably sounds, given the car purchases you've seen, but it's much easier to sell a car than it is to refit a garage into some other use. So that's why. The capacity of the garage is kind of interesting. It definitely will be full at this point. And what I haven't shown you is the exterior of the garage. It's almost dead center in a set of maybe 20 warehouse units. I mean, they're all interconnected. They're under the same roof. They just kind of stair-step down with the grade of the property. And there's several hundred units across several buildings in that. But the four units that are next to me are all coming available. The company constructs these communication towers, and their communication tower construction contracts are done. And they're starting to move out of them. So we have first right of refusal on the unit right next to us. And so you'll probably see the garage double over the next couple of months. I think it's something we could keep lifts and storage in one and work area in another. So I think we'll see that come through. Some of you pointed out that the lifts weren't lined up, and it turns out you were right. I was wrong. The lift guy was wrong. We are going to move the lift about 8-10 inches to the right, so the working lift lines up directly with the storage lift. So you'll see that maybe even next week. But that's really it. The garage project is done. It's we have definitely a first right of refusal to double it. I think I'll take it. It doesn't add that much money to the monthly nut that's required to run this project. So anyway, I think I've answered your questions. But if not, as always, if I missed it, if I didn't get the question that you thought you were asking, please ask it again. Or if you want more information on these answers, just let me know. I'll be glad to continue to talk about why we made the decisions I've made. So the other one, though, a totally unrelated subject. Now, the second question came about, can I talk about my personal spending habits and what I learned about my personal spending over the years? And one thing I did, even from a pretty young age for me, starting maybe around 30, 31, was when I spent money, I was trying to be careful about what I spent it on, and I continue to do this today. And even with this DHR Street Speed, it's a project that's got a value to it, I think. And so when I spend money, I try to spend it on things that have a recurring value or a money value or a payback value that that just buying stuff doesn't provide. So I rarely buy stuff. And I've done that my whole life. So I've bought into 4 or 5 oil well operations. I've bought like 1% of 6 or 8 oil wells. I've purchased 30% ownership shares in college dorms, or really these LLCs that hold property for appreciation and for monthly cash flow. And so I own maybe 30% of an LLC that is in the Midwest, Iowa, Indiana, and they own college dormitories, strip malls, things like that. And so it provides cash flow. The oil wells provide a little bit of cash flow. So I don't spend a lot of money on vacations. I don't spend a lot of money on clothes. I don't spend a lot of money on cars up until what you've seen on this channel. I mean, my God, I drove a 1988 4Runner for 10 years, and then I drove a 2010 4Runner, and we still own it, and now my son has it. We tend to buy vehicles that are 1 or 2 years old. Both of my F-350s were bought at 2 or 3 years old, and I still own both of them. They're paid off, and they're my workhorses. So just my advice or my thought for you would be, when you spend money, are you spending money on things that are going to help make you money or build up your asset value? Or are you spending money on, are you essentially pissing it away and going out to eat a lot, Starbucks every day, a new car every year or two, an apartment or a lease situation that's really a little bit above you, buying houses that are maybe too big or too expensive? Just beware of those things. Huge vacations every year. If you fly internationally and spend a lot of money on a week or 2 week vacation, I mean, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just trying to answer the question about my lessons learned as I've proceeded into the last 25, 30 years. I tend to spend money on things that are valuable and remain valuable, increase in value, and even maybe provide some cash flow. So I've got a couple rental properties. I've got this land, this property ownership LLC that I own a pretty big stake in. The 1% of the producing oil wells. I own 100% of DHA. I own 100% of the farm. And so if I have extra money, I try to put it on things. I either try to, like over the last few years, I've paid off all my debt. And really the last debt I have is I've got a small mortgage remaining on the farm. And so for this year, I'll free up money, and as I free it up, it'll go to pay off the mortgage on the farm, and I'll own it outright, in the next 3-4 months. Not very sexy, not a great answer. I totally get it. It's not where society or commercials or things lead us to do, or the kind of decisions that are made by most of our society. But owning things outright, owning assets that have increasing value, owning assets that spin off a little bit of cash, are far more valuable as you hit 50 than a rounding cars out every couple of years. So that's one of my lessons learned. Again, if I didn't hit the answer right, or if it just creates more, sometimes answers create just more questions, then let's continue that conversation. But those are really the two things I wanted to cover today, was the garage and my decisions around it, and then kind of the spending habits and lessons learned I've developed over the last 20, 30 years. So that's really it. Gosh, I'll say, as I do every time, I appreciate your involvement. Hopefully I throw out some, it's a personal thing. I just throw out those little videos, like the airplane from St. Martin's at the beach last night, that was a couple years ago. The New Year's Eve ones. Every now and then it'll throw you out one that's kind of fun and maybe shows, because not everybody lives around here, not everybody has the opportunity to do some of these things. I'm just trying to throw out some visual experiences for you. If it just reads, sounds, looks stupid from your side of the lens, let me know. But if they're landing okay, I'll probably just continue to throw those out from time to time. So that's it. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. I don't know if we'll do much car today. It's like 15 degrees out. I don't have any work being done in the garage tonight, so this may be it today. I don't like that. It doesn't feel very good, but I don't have too much else to share with you, and I don't want to just ramble on and provide you a bunch of crap content. So I'll just say good day, have a great Wednesday, and we'll talk to you tomorrow morning. Bye, everybody.